Hi everyone, so I'm Venice and I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at Wisr. And today I'm going to talk to you about something that might sound like a contradiction. And that's how digital journeys and automation actually work best when they're designed to bring in a human touchpoint at exactly the right moment. So in case you don't know who Wisr is, we're a fintech lender whose purpose is to power Australians' progress towards what matters most to them. So we do this through loans, our financial wellness app, and that includes credit score tracking. A lot of our loan volume comes through brokers, and this is supported by our strong BDM team. But at the same time, we've invested heavily in the digital experience, and our app has won WeMoney's Best Mobile Experience Award 3 years running. So we really are playing with that intersection between human touch as well as digital automation and scaling. So have a quick think for me. When was the last time you went to an ATM and took cash out for something, whether it be a Facebook Marketplace pickup or for a tradie who's coming in? For me, it was honestly really hard to remember the last time I've used cash. And this is reflected in banking, with 99.1% of banking interactions now being digital. Yet, the most important touch points and moments in lending still come down to a human being. So I'd love to get your thoughts here on how you manage your finances. If you're across absolutely everything, you're on top of your finances, use blue. If you avoid finances where possible and only really look at them when you have to, red. And if you're somewhere in between, do green. All right, awesome. I think we've got a bit of a mix there across all three, which is perfect, because that's actually exactly what we see in our journeys as well. So a lot of the time, customers and brokers will come in with very different needs and very different experiences, and yet they will all go through the same systems. So the challenge we see here is that financial services digital journeys are really high intent. So often, people are there for a specific reason. They will sometimes just be browsing, but a lot of the time it's this really high intent focus. Yet it's really high drop off. And we believe this is because customers often want speed, transparency, and reassurance that the brand is on their side and that the journey is personalized to what they need. Yet all too often, we see digital journeys that are complex, especially in the financial language they use. They are impersonal and uncertain with next steps, which can be really overwhelming, especially for someone who might not have interacted with financial services or loans before. And I've popped an example up on the screen, and this was our onboarding email not too long ago. And you can see there is very little branding, zero personalization, and something we really needed to uplift to be able to improve our experience for brokers and customers. And in a few slides, I'll show you how we've completely transformed this experience. So first, the shift we've noticed is that journeys are a network of signals. They're not just linear funnels anymore. And the way we think about this is every single action a customer or broker takes leads to some sort of intention or consideration that they might have. So what we did is we mapped out our entire broker lifecycle journey all the way from awareness through to advocacy and also win-back journeys as well. And throughout this process, we had really clear patterns start to emerge. We started to see where there were major pain points and where the brokers needed more hand-holding or more reassurance. And we were able to do this by bringing key stakeholders from our sales, operations, and product teams into the same room and getting all of their input. Now, the way we go about this journey is with Braze, which is the CRM platform we use, and we're able to build a number of automated campaigns in there, as well as once-off touchpoints. So we have 2 workspaces, one for brokers and one for customers. We have over 1.5 million user profiles and more than 160 active campaigns and canvases. Now, I'll talk you through the framework we use, as well as a number of examples at the stages I've highlighted on that journey. So the framework we use is 3 levers, 1 conversion engine. And the first is data intelligence. So this is really about making sure you have the right data that you need about your customers or brokers or whoever your target audience is. So for us, this was putting a number of events and attributes into Braze for any key touch points and actions throughout our journey, and then setting up a number of lifecycle automated journeys off the back of this. So as soon as a broker took a specific action, they would get the automated journey, whether that be via email, SMS, a portal banner, a pop-up, or even a webhook to one of our relationship managers to then call that person. And it all kind of comes back to having that really strong data foundation. And then the second is content that earns trust. So this is really looking at having that content and pieces, thought leadership that really brings back that trust for customers and brokers. And we find this really builds that trust in the brand before you even ask for conversion or before you're trying to upsell or cross-sell. And then the third is human intervention. And this is something we've been playing around a lot with recently. And as data and AI keeps growing, we've found that this is a way we can kind of differentiate ourselves and continue providing support to customers and brokers. So the first example I want to touch on is onboarding, because that's really, for us, where the journey in Braze starts. So with onboarding, there's 2 key points we look at. The first is activation. So this is when a broker becomes accredited with Wisr. The second is if that broker has not logged in to our portal within 1 week of becoming accredited, we then set up a range of automated journeys, starting with this email. And you can see here, it's very different to the email I showed you a few slides back. There's tools to help them get started. There's actually people they can contact straight away if they need help. We give them an intro to their team, and we're able to do this through Braze, having that personalization. It's highly segmented based on what type of broker they are, what company they're with. And we were able to get really strong results off the back of this, with a massive 82% email open rate and more than 30% of brokers completing rate estimates for loans within just a few days of engaging with this email. And a big part of this too, when I was reflecting on this, was actually gaining that trust with our product and tech teams so that they had trust in us moving away from their system-generated emails and towards these really data-driven journeys in Braze. So a lot of it for us is actually getting our key stakeholders from other teams on board with what we're doing in the marketing space. So that's onboarding. And another key part of the journey we really looked at and found a lot of success with was win-back journeys. So the first one I'll touch on here is our application decline re-engagement campaign. And this is basically when a broker has a declined loan application and then they haven't returned to us for a rate estimate within 1 week. So for us, we're assuming they've probably had a pretty negative experience with that first one. You can see here the Braze journey on the screen. We map out an automated flow, and we make sure it's highly empathetic. So straight from the get-go, we're including that human touch, even within this automated journey. And then on top of that, in every one of our communications, we're giving them the option to speak with their BDM via a Calendly webhook from Braze to there, and they are able to have this human touch point at any point they need. And we saw great success in this one too, with a massive 48% email open rate and 26% of these brokers completing rate estimates, which is absolutely crazy considering they've actually had a negative experience with us. This did so well that we actually then looked at setting up another win-back journey. This time it was focused on new brokers with us. So these ones had settled their first loan with us, and then within 3 weeks they still hadn't submitted another rate estimate. Now, this was really confusing to us because on paper, this is exactly who you think would be a returning broker. They've had a really successful first experience, but for whatever reason, they have not returned. So what we did here is we set up a very strong automated journey in Braze, specifically using email and SMS, and we saw really strong results from this. And we believe this was due to the content we used within it, as well as the personalization. So in here, we had testimonials, we had our key USPs, and then what worked really well for us was actually creating a blog page which had everything that was new in the product space and all the features we were now offering to brokers, and that received really high engagement. And again, you can see the results, again, were extremely strong for us and drove a lot more return engagement from people who otherwise would have disengaged. So for now, all I've really talked about is lifecycle, and that's really what we focus on a lot in Braze. But another part of the picture is once-off campaigns. And what we've found works really well is having strong lifecycle journeys set up for brokers and then overlaying this with once-off high-impact campaigns. Because lifecycle really builds that consistency and that trust, but then campaigns really grow that once-off momentum for the brand. So an example I've got up here is our Money on Your Mind report, which we released earlier this year. It was our second one in a row, and we had extremely high engagement. The way we went about it was actually going out to our existing brokers and customers, surveying them via a survey via all our different channels through a CRM campaign, and then coming back and creating this report and sharing all the insights back with them. Now, this is particularly valuable to brokers because they're getting key insights into their potential clients or existing clients. And what we're able to do here is then send out a large-scale Braze CRM campaign. So across all our touch points, we had email, SMS, portal banners, portal pop-ups, all segmented and personalized for the type of broker we had. So if they were a bid broker and more focused on mortgages, for example, but might do a few of the personal loans we offer, we would give them very different content and highlights versus our other brokers who might be more longer standing with us and write really high loan volumes. And we had really great results from this. We had thousands of report views. We had really positive verbal feedback from our broker network. And we had hundreds of webinar attendees as well as a successful in-person event. And I think the learning for us here was that content and campaigns aren't actually separate from lifecycle. If you can work out a way for them to work together, it's actually a really great way to build trust and ultimately conversion with your audience. So before I move on to the customer example, I would absolutely love to get your opinion on what you would trust more. So let's say you've applied for a loan online directly with a lender, and then next steps, would you like a personalized email with clear next steps, a phone call from a real person, or a mix of both at the right time? If you can hold up the band that, yeah, interesting. So a lot of blue or green, and then there's a few reds in there. And I think what's interesting here is that everyone usually wants something a little different. I know for me, I would not want a phone call, but my partner would. So it's always hard to know what people want in this journey. So what we actually did was put this to the test. So in Braze, we set up an experiment where 50% of our customers this time received the option to book a call with our relationship managers, and then 50% received our existing journey with purely digital nudges. And it was really putting to test, do people want this touch point with humans? And what we saw is that this actually led to a massive 14.5% increase in application submissions when the talk to someone option was introduced. And I think something that was interesting here is it wasn't our team just randomly calling up customers, because I know that can be quite annoying for certain people. What we did is we just provided an option for them to chat with the team, and then they could book in an appointment or a call at the time that suited them. So it was really still focusing on digital, but allowing them to pick this human touch point when they wanted to. And there were some really interesting conversations that came out of that for our team, and they were actually able to work really close with customers to get them the best outcome. So 3 things we've learned from these examples. The first is data tells you when, but humans decide why. And this is really what we found works well with Braze, right? Is putting all our data in there, having all our events and actions that we want people to take, and then having specific journeys built off the back of that. We have journeys for absolutely everything, and they're all highly segmented and personalized for each broker's needs. The second learning here is that timing matters just as much as channel. So for us, you could get a phone call at the wrong moment, and that could just be noise. And you could get an email at the right moment, and that could completely change your experience, or vice versa. So everyone wants something different. And what we've seen here is by testing out these different channels and incorporating them into our journeys, we've seen a massive 16% uplift in email open rates for broker within the last year alone. And we're now reaching more than 50% of our addressable audience, which has led to our strongest quarter ever, and we've just reached our $1 billion loan book. So you can see the results here have really translated into business results because we're able to reach a lot more brokers and customers and make sure it's really personalized for them, and we get that retention and they keep coming back. And then the third learning here is that better inputs create better journeys. So what I find here is something I really learned throughout the process. You need to bring the people from the business within who have those insights for brokers and customers. So I think I mentioned before, we had people from all different departments coming together, brainstorming, and we had those key stakeholders there. We then overlaid this with user interviews with our customers and brokers, NPS data from a range of campaigns we have set up via Braze, as well as once-off surveys and campaigns. And what this allowed us to do was really get a deep understanding of the pain points and messaging opportunities for brokers and customers in that journey, right? And what we were able to do then is come up with a really clear messaging that would hit each of the pain points. And then the result here, on top of it, was actually gaining that trust within the company. It can sometimes be hard in finance, being in the marketing team, and actually people understanding what your role is within the lending process. And this allowed us to build a lot more trust with them and really bring them on board for the journey. And then what's next for us? So we're going to be focusing on a few things. And while these are all relatively data-driven, the main theme for us is that the human edge isn't going away. We're just using all these different things to make it smarter. So the first thing we're going to be focusing on is AI-augmented human moments. So we're going to be using predictive signals to send to our sales team, so that when they pick up the phone to a broker or a customer, they know exactly where that person is at in their journey, and they will get recommended next steps with AI and automation. This will allow them to have really personalized moments, and they'll already kind of have that context before even speaking to this person. The second thing we're going to be focusing on is flexibility through API, because what we've been learning is that these journeys aren't linear for customers. Everyone has a different experience, and everyone needs something a little different, whether it's a different channel, different timing, or help from a human. So API will really allow us to translate and change based on the behavior of each customer and broker. And then the third item we're going to be focusing on is a platform for progress. So this is really the bigger picture for us at Wisr. We really are trying to help people, whether it be customers or brokers, power their progress. And what we're going to be looking at here is deepening relationships through both human touch points as well as optimizing all our digital journeys. One item we're looking at trialing in a next experiment is a proactive loan check-in. So actually getting our team to check in, give them a call, or maybe even give them a text and see where they're at, whether there's anything we can help with, or if there's anything we can help them with on their financial journey. So the question we haven't fully answered yet, and something we're still trying to get to the bottom of at Wisr, is how do we scale the human moment without losing what makes it human? Because what I've been speaking about today is really that tug of war between using data, automation, and AI to make journeys smarter, more efficient, and better for the customer, while at the same time not losing that human empathy that really drives conversion when it comes down to it. This is a topic I absolutely love talking about, so if anyone's around at lunchtime, I'd love to have a chat on it. Thank you.